URA visit.
Why would anyone visit URA, of all places?
To know more about the Kakasa business solutions, namely digital tracking solution, the voluntary disclosure program and electronic fiscal receipting and invoicing solution, which have turned my business around. You know I need to be on top of my game to protect my empire. If you know, you know.
I too need to know what Kapo knows.
Kakasa, be sure you are in charge of your business. Uganda Revenue Authority, developing Uganda together.
Wait, Abu, tunamaliliza. And what are you doing throwing papers all over the place?
I'm looking for an invoice for a sound system and cables that I received yesterday, but I can't find it.
You know there is a way of keeping all this in one place and available to you as and when you need it.
I really wish there was one, because the way these invoices grow legs and disappear.
I believe this is what you're looking for.
Now how did it get there?
Tabo! Do you know that with EFRIS, you can stay on track of all your business transactions and improve on your record keeping?
How so?
Katituli computer with EFRIS. I just search using the fiscal document number and I retrieve the records I'm looking for. Bookkeeping becomes simple after that.
Kapo, awesome, yeah.
I began using URA's Kakasa solutions and now I'm in charge of my business. And you can as well.
Kakasa, be sure you are in charge of your business.
Uganda Revenue Authority, developing Uganda together.
In chess, the small one can become the big one. It's the same here. And here too. Watch every move. Record every number so you can plan better. No matter the size of your dream, tomorrow's success belongs to those who keep today's records clean. File your returns today.
Uganda Revenue Authority, developing Uganda together.
Watching the first edition of a new URA program, the Revenue Pulse. And it's a program designed to bring you regular updates of URA's revenue collections against the intended target. I am Nouella Anaso, your host today, and on set I also have a co-host.
I'm Linda Namayanja from the Information Technology and Innovation Division.
Yes, and we're also joined by senior journalist. Yes, he's a business editor writer at the New Vision. Mr. You can greet our viewers.
Good morning, viewers. My name is Edward Kayiwa. I'm not an editor. I'm a business writer at New Vision.
Business writer, yes. Well, thank you, Edward, for joining us. We're excited to bring you this particular program. And Linda, would you like to tell our dear viewers why we're having this particular program?
Thank you so much, Nouella. Our dear viewers, we are going to achieve this program by sharing with you monthly updates on URA's performance in terms of tax collection. We are also going to interview different leaders and representatives from the different sectors to understand the challenges that they face as they collect tax. So please follow us on this journey. You can follow us on our social media platforms like YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. So we understand that many of us, me inclusive, find some tax-related issues a bit complex to understand. But please do not worry. That's why we are here to demystify that and to make it easy for you to understand. Firstly, we are going to explain to you the revenue collection flow process. As you can see on the screen, firstly, every financial year that starts, our financial year starts from June to July. URA is given a target that it must meet, and this is set by the Ministry of Finance. Then after that, the taxpayer registers their payment online using a platform that they are comfortable with. This can be through the bank, payway, or mobile money. When the taxpayer pays, URA is notified about the payment, which is wired into the URA account. And this money is actually sent to a central government account, which is in Bank of Uganda. So Bank of Uganda then notifies Ministry of Finance about the taxes and the revenue that have been collected. Then through the budget process, as you can see, point 5, Parliament, together with the Ministry of Finance and BOU, apportion these funds to the different ministries, departments, and agencies. Then at the end of the financial year, as I mentioned, July, this money has to be accounted for by the different MDAs, who are then audited by the Auditor General and the IGG to make sure that the funds that they were given are well used. So in short and in brief, we just wanted you to understand what the revenue collection process actually is. We want you to understand that the mandate of URA is to actually assess and collect taxes. The Ministry of Finance is URA's supervisor. It's the one that sets the targets every year, and URA must make sure that we achieve those targets. This revenue is sent to Bank of Uganda as the government account. Then this money is apportioned together with Parliament and Ministry of Finance to the different MDAs who have to account for it at the end of the financial year. So I'll invite Nouella to take us through this discussion.
Oh yes, what we want to make clear this morning is the role of Ministry of Finance and how it relates with URA. We want to make that very clear. We also want to make very clear the mandate that URA has, according to the flowchart that Linda just shared. Yes, Linda, we could make that clear for our dear taxpayers. Yes, Edward. The mandate of URA is simply to assess, collect, and account for central government tax. I think that is clear as URA. And then for Ministry of Finance, their mandate is they supervise. In their relationship with URA, they simply supervise the activities of the authority to just make sure that these taxes are collected and they're sent to the consolidated fund. And then from Parliament, that is where the discussion goes on which sectors need what and how much. And then finally, it is the MDAs, the ministries, departments, and agencies that actually account for these taxes. And so, Edward, this leads us to other questions. For example, why are there targets? Why do we have revenue targets? Why are they set? Why are they set? What informs those targets? What does Ministry of Finance look at to set these targets? Would you help our taxpayers?
Okay, thank you very much, Nouella, and the viewers out there. Once again, my name is Edward Kayiwa. I'm a business writer. The questions that you've asked are quite interesting, and they are usually the point at which many people suffer a lot of headache. But to break it down, probably we begin with understanding what is a target, or what is a revenue target. Now, a revenue target is simply a projection of the revenue that government looks at collecting in a particular financial year. You see, even in homes, we have targets. Okay. Like in your home, you have a target.
That's true.
When a particular month begins, you say, I want to spend this much. And then you look for places where you'll get that money to finance the projections that you have made in that particular period of time, that particular month. Even so, the government has projections of the things that it wants to do. In Uganda, for instance, the government is looking at things like infrastructure development. Currently, it is in road construction, electricity construction, okay? Electricity production and generation,
yes.
Okay? Mm-hmm. To increase the capacity. Government has a wage bill. It has people it employs. It has to pay them. It has to cater for our security. Everybody's security is in the hands of the government. So the government has a lot on its table, but all this needs a lot of money, yes, for it to be able to execute these programs in a particular financial year. So what the government does is it puts a projection that this is how much we shall need in this particular year in order to fulfill all these obligations together. So when it makes that projection, usually the projection is made at the Ministry of Finance. There is a section there called planning. It's the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development. Now there is a particular one, there is a whole minister attached to it, the Minister of Finance in charge of planning. So they plan for the country. They make these projections, say we shall build the Hoima Road, we shall build the Nakapiripit Road, and things of that kind. So after they have amalgamated their plans, then they say, this is how much it will cost us to do this financial year. After, now they have put a total sum to it, the amount of money that is required in order to execute government business in that financial year. That is when now they pass on this target. Actually, they write a document. It's a proposal, which they take to Parliament. Then Parliament looks at it. It approves it. Of course, they make certain amendments. Okay, and Parliament approves the document as it is. This document also contains projections made by the MDAs, the ministries, departments, and agencies. Each one of them makes a projection of the activities they intend to do in a year, and how much these activities are likely to cost. So all this is fitted in one document, which is taken to Parliament. Then Parliament debates this document, and then decides, no, this is on a high end, this is on a low end, we don't need this, we need this. All right? So after now it has been finalized, that document, okay? That draft. That is now, when it is approved, that is what becomes the budget.
Okay.
And it is what the minister reads at the onset of every financial year. Okay. Now, the question, what informs these targets? I think I've already touched it.
Yes.
But particularly for Uganda, for instance, we also have what we call the drive to reach or to attain middle income, which is the Vision 2040.
Okay.
In this vision, government is looking at, reaching a certain threshold, okay, of, to break it down, I'll just call it individual or household incomes, all right? The amount of money that each person earns in a financial year. Currently, it is estimated that we are at about $800. But that is still a little bit low for us to attain the middle income status.
Yes.
So government is looking at fighting poverty. That's one of the aspirations. That's one of the determinants of what kind of budget we have.
Okay.
Two, government is looking at building infrastructure, because in government's projection, if we have roads built and others improved all over the country, then it is easier for farmers down in the village to transport their crops to the market. It is easier for someone to set up an industry in Nakasongola and be assured of transport to Kampala or to the airport or to the border, while seeking to export their products. There is internal movement from border to border. So this encourages development, economic growth.
Yes.
It stimulates economic growth and economic development within the country. Government is also, because you see of late, Uganda has become a regional power, and that means we have a lot of enemies. We are in Somalia. We are in many places where the peace actually is not, like the Central African Republic, trying to help our brothers, like even in South Sudan. We're trying to help our brothers become peaceful, because if the South Sudan market is not peaceful, we lose. We lose a lot. We used to export a lot to Southern Sudan. That market was cut off because of instability. So one of the things that now still inform is government looking at how can we help our brothers stabilize so that we can take our products there and sell in those markets. Because if those markets stabilize, it is to our own advantage. But also looking at our own safety. Because you see, before COVID came, Uganda, especially Kampala, was a 24-hour market. While other people closed at around 6, 7, 8, others were just opening to work the night up to morning. So around the clock there was activity within the city, and that alone, it generates a lot of revenue for the country, because each activity is taxed. Each activity is taxed directly or indirectly. Okay, so if we have guarantee of peace and no one can destabilize the country for whatever reason, then it also attracts investors to come, both local and foreign investors. So if we have these investors in the country, that means we are creating more employment, we are driving out poverty, you get it. We are looking at, structural growth and quite a number of things. So these are some of the things that now inform the yes. These are some of the things that inform the budget.
Okay. Wow. On to the next question. Can these targets be reached or not? And what are the implications if we hit a target, if we don't hit a target? If URA doesn't hit a target, what does that mean?
Okay. At the beginning of this year, I made targets.
Okay.
Even at the beginning of last year, I made targets.
Personal targets.
My personal targets. When December 31st reached, I evaluated my targets for 2020. I realized for a number of reasons I had not attained many of the targets that I had set to achieve in 2020. So I set new targets in 2021, and I'm waiting around December to evaluate my journey throughout the year. Okay, targets, therefore, can be met, but also it's possible not to meet these targets.
That's true.
Now, when we look particularly at URA, there is a reason why every 3 months it comes out to evaluate how much of this target has been achieved. Those are the quarterly, quarterly projections, but also quarterly evaluations of this target. Okay, so the question is, what happens if URA fails to achieve the target? This I can look at it in two ways. One, if it fails to achieve the targets for a particular quarter or financial year, and if it consistently fails to achieve its target. Now, if it's a one-off, like failing to achieve the target of a quarter, all right, that in itself means that there is more need to work harder, to be more creative, to think outside of the box on how can we collect more, how can we facilitate the collection of this tax revenue so that government can now finance its programs without borrowing. Okay? Now, if we fail throughout the financial year to achieve our targets, that means one thing, that government will not have many options except to borrow. And borrowing comes at a cost. It comes at a cost. Okay? Right now, we have our debt to GDP, reaching the climax.
That's true.
Okay?
That's true.
We have our debt to GDP almost reaching the climax. And that's not a very good thing, because it means that future generations will pay that money over a very long period of time, and it will not be so good. But the important thing is that when we fail to meet our target in a particular financial year, we are standing in a very bad place.
That's true. Thank you, Edward. Last week, on Thursday, we had a press conference right here at the URA Tower, and the Commissioner General gave a performance review of how URA performed in its collections over the last quarter. What I see clear from what you discussed is, number one, there is a financial year, and that financial year starts from June to July the following year. Yes. And so for this financial year, our revenue target is 22.4 trillion. And the first quarter is already done. Over the last 3 months, July, August, September, And that is what the Commissioner General was reviewing last week on Thursday. And so we want to show a short clip of how we performed, how URA performed over the last quarter.
In the first quarter of this financial year, URA has collected net revenue of 4.459 trillion, posting a growth of 9.57% in comparison with the same period for the last financial year 2020-2021. In nominal terms, this reflects the growth in revenue of Uganda shillings 389.5 billion. It should, however, be noted that the outturn for the first quarter is short of the target of 4.959 trillion by approximately 499.49 billion.
It is clear that there was a shortfall. The target for the quarter was 4.4, was 4.9, and we hit at 4.6 trillion, though there was a short growth compared to last year of 9.57%. There was just a short growth. And so we slightly missed our target, just like we missed our target for the last financial year. And there are implications to that when URA misses the target. But when we say there's a growth, there's some economic growth, that means that we have certain sectors now that are beginning to come up, even amid the COVID situation. From the reports, it's because of COVID that the country has not been performing as it should. But we've been able to register a certain percentage of growth. However, we can see from the table, Paul, if you can project, from domestic revenue collections during the first quarter of this financial year were 2.6 trillion. In comparison to the same period last year, there was a growth that was registered of 8.1%. However, the collections were still below target in the domestic revenue collections. And then when we go over to customs, during the first quarter, the customs revenue collections were 1.8 trillion against a target of 1.9. There was a growth still of 8.8% in comparison to the previous financial year. However, still, the collections were below target. And from the Commissioner General's submissions, we can see the Commissioner General has ably and visibly relayed the vision for URA and why we are collecting, why URA is collecting. And the vision is to attain economic independence, to be able to secure Uganda's economic independence. That is the vision. What does this phrase, Edward and Linda, what does the phrase economic independence actually mean? And why is it so important for Uganda to be able to attain economic independence, in your view?
Okay, thank you so much, Nouella. As we've seen from the clip, it's really the passion of the CG for us to attain economic independence. And from my layman's understanding, I think we want to be able to stop borrowing, to be able to be self-sustaining, to be able to have a budget that we can be able to attain and fully achieve, yes, and finance it. So from this, are we there? What is the cost of Uganda not being able to be economically independent? Maybe, Edward, you could throw more light on that.
Okay. Economic independence. It was just last year when it first hit me truly hard. I was speaking to Finance Minister Matia Kasaija, and he was giving an explanation on something, and then he said he was in a meeting with some white people, and he was very, very, very embarrassed because he had to put himself in a very bad position of really begging in a bad way. And I said, oh, you mean, first of all, he's very aged. He's around the age of my father. Well, usually when I look at him, because his stature and age is basically around my father's. So I looked at him and imagined my father begging for us to have food at home. It hit me really, really hard. Now, you see, this is what happens when you're not economically independent. That means you cannot take care of your own. You cannot meet your aspirations with your own cash. It means you have to go somewhere and beg, all right, for people to give you something to bring back home for the good of your people, in the case of Uganda, all right? So economic independence is a point where now we are fully financing our expenditure through our revenue, which is collected via URA. Now, when URA collects, hits the targets, okay? Because just a few minutes ago, I was telling you about what happens if URA fails to hit the target. What happens is Honorable Kasaija has to go and beg. Now, when URA hits the target, Honorable Kasaija doesn't have to go and beg. It means that we just sit, we look at our revenue, we look at our projections, we see that they're in tandem, and we spend, and it is done. All right? That means if we have attained our economic independence, we do not have to be at the mercy of people who give us loans and grants, because grants come with conditionalities. Even some loans actually come with conditionalities. The loans usually that come from IMF have conditions attached to them. The grants these days, some countries say open even a separate account where we can put this money because we don't trust you. You see, in the eyes of those people, we look like thieves. They are giving us their money so that we can just eat it and eat it. We don't know what we are doing. But when we are economically stable, first of all, even our sovereign image improves.
That's true.
People will look at Uganda as a small country somewhere in Africa that really doesn't beg. It's strong enough. Our reputation grows. We can speak to others and they listen to what we are saying because we are not going to beg. Okay? Yes. We are bringing value on the table. Once we are economically independent, that means some of the projects that we think of doing but we cannot do because we don't have money, that means we shall do them. There are many roads that are in plan, but they cannot be worked on because there is no funding. And the only funding that we receive in a certain year is only as much as we can collect and what the donors can give us. Yes. All right? So we can improve quite a lot of things. Uganda Airlines still needs a lot of planes. It only has about 4 or 5 right now. But in order for it to make economic sense, it needs quite a number of these aircrafts to chart a number of routes. Yes. You get it? That's not all. The state of our schools is in bad shape. We need infrastructure. Some kids up country are studying under trees. Even in the city, some of these schools, they don't have desks where kids sit, or the desks are actually in bad shape. We need money to pay our people better. The teachers, the nurses, the policemen, the army. All these people need better pay. But we don't have enough money to pay them. Just the other day, there was an argument within the National Teachers Union, UNATO, I think it's the National Teachers Union, when the president said science teachers should be paid a certain amount of money. And these were saying, what about the ones who teach arts? Are they teachers? Don't they go to universities? Don't they have qualification? And they were saying, if you are increasing the pay for these ones, you have to also increase the pay for these ones also. And they say those people will not get that money unless it is equitable. You get it? Yes. But now if you have your own purse, which is full, those kinds of arguments are easy to sort out. They are easy to sort out. Okay? People get value for their labor.
That's true.
You get it? So the question of economic independence is really broad. But right now, we cannot do it because you see our GDP is small. Our GDP right now stands at about $32 billion.
That's true.
That's the size of our economy. If you put services, if you put exports, that is trade, and all economic activity, you compile it together, the size of the economy is just $32 billion. That's very, 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 very small. If you compare it, for example, with Nigeria, which is at about almost $357 billion, somewhere around there. And that's another country, fellow African country. It has a GDP of about $350-something billion.
Yes.
All right? Algeria is about $217 billion. All right? But Uganda is just 32 billion. You can see that that is very tiny.
And yet we are borrowing more.
Yeah.
That means you can liken it to a house where there are more children coming into the family, and yet the father's income is not enough to sustain the increasing family. So what does he go out to do? To borrow. You said IMF has just marked this red line on Uganda because our debt to GDP ratio is now well, our debt to GDP ratio is now, over the top, and yet we are still spending, we are still consuming, government is still spending, our net exports are still. So, what does that mean for us? How can we just put a stop to this? Because we're still borrowing. I think last month we still got another funding from, not last month, I think 2 months ago or something, from the IMF, and still the cost still on interest. It's actually the interest on our debt that just keeps increasing because we're not paying. By last year, at least 26% of what we get in our national budget, what is apportioned for the financial year, still goes to paying off debts. So how are we going to get to that place? When we look at countries like Denmark, their tax to GDP ratio, I think they have the highest among the European countries. They stand at about 46, and university education is free for all European students that study in there. That means the more they're able to collect in terms of tax, the more that they can finance their budget out of tax that is collected, then the more public services they can give to their people. And for us, when we come to Africa, for us, in the sub-Saharan Africa, you find that the average is 16%, and Uganda is still collecting at about 13%, our tax to GDP ratio. That means we are still even below the sub-Saharan African average. That should shake every Ugandan. The fact that our public debt is way over the top, and the fact that our tax to GDP ratio is way below the threshold, that would mean for something, for what government should be doing more. What do you think, Edward? What should government be doing more?
I think what government should be doing, government is already in the process of doing it.
Okay. Maybe the question would be, well, is it effective? Because you talked about Vision 2020 that informs how we set our targets. You talk about the National Development Plan. We could say the fact that the donors have to continually lay off or, put that debt at a point where it's okay, we're just going to write this off because we know you're not about to pay this. Yes. So the fact that they'll have to write that off, or sometimes, wait until it just keeps increasing because we're not going to pay.
Okay. Now, the issue of writing off debt is not good because it undermines us in the face of the international arena.
Do we still care?
Yes, we have to care.
Do we still have any share?
We have to care. We have to care. That is not something small. Mm-hmm. It's not something small to be undermined in the face of other countries. Okay? So we have to work harder to be economically independent than, but also as we pay off our debt. Right now, we are not able to, sufficiently pay off the debt. So most of the time, we are paying interest on the debt and keeping the debt until a time when we can be in position to pay off that debt and then move forward. Yes. That is not in itself a bad thing, looking at our financial position, because we do not have that money right now to actually pay that date. If we pay the date, then what happens to other activities that have to be undertaken throughout the year? So it's not a bad thing in itself that government is paying interest on the date and not the date itself, all right? It is simply expressing goodwill. It's saying, look here, we are not able to pay right now, but we are willing to pay when the time comes, such a time that we are willing now to pay this date. That's what government is saying. It's not a bad thing. It continues to cast it in good light to potential lenders, all right? Because we need date. No country can survive without date. Even America has date. But what can we now do as a country to improve things? I said most of these things are already in place. For example, here at URA, there is the Taxpayer Expansion Program, TREP.
Okay.
Yeah, you know, that program for expanding the tax register. And it has grown. It used to be at about 1.1 before this program started. And now it's somewhere around 1.8, close to 2 million.
That is a government initiative.
Yes, of course, because URA is a government entity. Yeah. Whatever it implements is policy. It's out of government policy. So that in itself is something good. The more taxpayers you have on the register, the more you expect collection from these taxpayers, because they are not, you're not registering them to just sit around. You are registering them for tax purposes, and at a certain point A, B, C, D, you will know what they are doing, and they will pay taxes. The other second thing that I see is good is that URA has gone the technology side.
Okay, we will discuss URA's initiatives later. We wanted to discuss what the government is doing.
Of course,
at that level.
That is what I'm trying to talk about, because you see, government, URA is part of government. So government works through its agencies. Okay, there is no person called government. All right, okay. Government is a single entity.
Yes.
All right, which has branches that are subdivided in ministries, departments, and agencies.
Okay.
All right, so URA is an agency of government. So I should say that one of the things that government has done is to revise policy.
Okay.
Okay.
At that level. Yes.
Government has revised policy, and now this policy is more northward looking. All right, and it is what is bringing these results that we are partly talking about here. All right. The other thing that government should do, as government at a broader level, is to try and reduce informality, because the informal sector is actually too huge. And you see, when you look at the contribution of the informal sector to the economy, is way past 50%, but the contribution of the contribution in taxes is not seen. That means that if you have more of the informal sector in the tax net, then you have much more revenue collected, and you're much able to carry out your activities without looking at borrowing from a number of people. All right.
Yes.
The other thing that is happening is looking at these multinationals. You see, when the multinationals now begin to register on the stock market, all right, that means there is we are looking at more patient capital, long-term capital. Patient capital is one of the enablers of business, because when people want to borrow money at a cheaper rate for a very long time in order to drive business growth, currently there is no place they can go to. Most banks here, they give loans of up to 5-10 years, depending. Housing finance, I think, has the longest time, which is 20 years, and that is only for mortgages. You get it?
Yes.
So there is no place you can get credit for a very long time. But when these entities register on the bus, that means there is more trading. There is more money to use for trading, but also more capital available for those who want to access this capital to grow their business. But also this gives credibility to the investment environment around. That means more big players can come in, because if MTN, for instance, has decided to make Uganda its home, permanent home, then another such big player will look at Uganda and build confidence in themselves and say, let me go to Uganda, it's a safe place. If MTN can permanently be domiciled there, I think I can. So it attracts more investment. So as foreign investment is growing, also local investments are what? Are growing. Yes. They are propping up because now these small units have a place to acquire capital and get saved. But also the other thing is encouraging the uptake of insurance, because insurance is a key player in the growth of any economy. Securing people's property in case there is an eventuality. Okay, when someone is very sure that I cannot lose it all, there is a tomorrow even after a windstorm.
Okay.
All right. So that is very important, because sometimes something happens and entire businesses are blown away. Who
would be responsible for doing that?
Well, you see, we have the Insurance Regulatory Authority, which is a government body.
Okay.
All right? And in my opinion, it will fundamentally be responsible with, awareness, creating awareness. But also the private sector, because they are doing business here, and it's them that are offering these insurance services to the people. So it's both the government and the private sector. It's their responsibility to create visibility of the insurance within the country. Yes. But also at a certain level, we look at places like Parliament, because if Parliament can now design more, attractive legislation. For instance, one of the most unattractive things about insurance is the tax.
It's really high.
Okay, it's the tax. So if government through Parliament can look into those areas,
yes,
and look into the tax structure of the insurance sector to make it more friendly,
yes,
more friendly, that encourages uptake. And as we have more uptake, we have more survival of businesses. You see, those economies that have grown extensively, there is not a single economy that has grown with businesses that just started yesterday. Most of their businesses are 200-300 years old, and they have grown from very small entities into large corporations. And it is those large corporations that are paying a lot of taxes to the government.
That's true.
And now the governments can function without stress. Okay, so we've got to build our own. We've got to encourage them to grow. We've got to pass policies that encourage these businesses to grow. And as they grow, even revenue collection grows with them.
Thank you so much, Edward. I think a few weeks back we hosted Uganda Free Zones Authority. There are a few things here and there that the government is trying to do to encourage, industry and agro-processing and large production. Thank you so much. Well, there you have it for what the government is doing, just a little what it's doing. And when we come back after the break, we are going to talk about what key initiatives URA is doing now to facilitate businesses, what key initiatives URA is undertaking to ensure that we have more coming through the coffers, and what you, the public, needs to be doing right now in response to ensuring that we secure Uganda's economic independence. Stay tuned.
The Taxpayers Appreciation Season is here! We recognize, celebrate and award Uganda's top taxpayers. Be part of the online Bombaya Business Summits and stand the chance to win smartphones, gift sets, hampers and loads more. Visit our social media pages to find out more.
We appreciate you for paying your taxes. We're proud to be Ugandan. We celebrate you. Oh, we celebrate you. Taxpayers of Uganda. We appreciate you. We appreciate you. Uganda together.
Uganda Revenue Authority. Developing Uganda together.
The third edition of the Bombay Business Summit is here, starting at 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. every Friday from the 15th of October to the 12th of November. Join us via Zoom, Facebook, and YouTube as we discuss topics like surviving and thriving through the pandemic, investing in real estate, trade and investment opportunities in Uganda, alternative dispute resolution, business formalization, and inclusive resource mobilization for Uganda's economic independence. Don't miss out.
Uganda Revenue Authority. Developing Uganda together.
Our humble beginnings take place in September 1991 with an amalgamation of 3 different departments in the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development. Back then, the economy was just getting back onto its feet. Tax collection stood at 6.83% of the GDP, amounting to 180 billion Uganda shillings in the financial year 1991-1992. The URA senior management team comprised of over 60% expatriate staff, and revenue collection depended majorly on cash-based systems. Over the years, we have developed more effective and automated means of revenue administrations, with 95% of URA's processes automated to mitigate corruption and position URA as a business enabler. Revenue collection has grown to 13% of GDP, amounting to 19.26 trillion Uganda shillings collected in the just concluded financial year 2020-2021. At 30 years old today, URA boasts of being an effective semi-autonomous body, providing revenue administration services, spanning the entire country and driving Uganda towards economic independence. We have a vision of mobilizing enough revenue to fund the national budget by 100%. We are 30 years stronger.
Uganda Revenue Authority. Developing Uganda together.
That's my little angel Rose. Together with millions of other children, my daughter Rose is assured of learning something new every day. Moses, my husband, just like many other commercial farmers, has his business supported so he can provide for us. When my other little one was on the way, even with my pregnancy complications, it was a quick, smooth ride to Mulago Specialized Women and Neonatal Hospital. Also, my new baby was able to make it through his first days with the help of specialized equipment, thanks to the reliable electricity which has also been extended throughout the country. All this and more has been made possible because of you.
Join us and together let's do more for our country. Get your free tin at www.ura.go.ug.
Thank you for paying your taxes.
Uganda Revenue Authority. Developing Uganda together.
Welcome back, our dear viewers. You are watching the Revenue Pulse, and you are right here with me, Nouella Anaso, your host, Linda Namayanja from URA's Innovation in Information Technology Division, and Edward, Kayiwa, who is a business writer at New Vision. And you found us right here discussing what we need to be doing as government, as the taxpayers, and URA, what we need to all be doing to secure Uganda's economic independence. And right about now, Linda, what should the authority be doing, or what is the authority doing now in its mandate to be able to deliver Uganda's economic independence?
Thank you so much, Nouella. You're right. What is the authority doing now? Because we're already in the process of improving the way we reach out to our taxpayers so that they can be able to be more compliant. So some of the things that we are doing, we are really trying to improve on our business processes. And how are we doing this? We want to automate. We are automating and integrating key business processes so that we can simplify the way the taxpayer is able to pay their taxes and also to seal out on all those gaps that we have realized. As you already know, we have introduced a smart business solution, which is IFRIS, that has been able to help taxpayers to be able to collect taxes, local excise duty. Also, the digital tracking solutions that have also improved on tax collection. Right now, URA is also seeking to acquire the ISO certification, which is going to help us improve on the quality of services and products that we deliver to our clients. Also, we are leveraging our research. There have been internal structure changes that have led to the development of a team that is strictly dedicated to research, to find out new ways and innovations on how to improve the way in which that we collaborate with our taxpayers and how easily we can bring our services to them, so that at the end of the day, they are able to pay their taxes and enjoy the services that URA is offering unto us. Yes.
Wow. Yes, and also more to that, from what URA is doing, there's a contact center, a standardized contact center that is just providing round-the-clock service. And lately, just last week, the WhatsApp number was launched, and you can access URA services through the number 077214 You just dial the number, and it's self-servicing. The taxpayers are able to self-serve using that particular app. The Tujenge Uganda bus and URA TV are initiatives that are facilitating or enabling a deepened taxpayer education. And I believe if you live within the eastern region, perhaps you have seen that beautiful bus drive along that route. The bus is a mobile tax office that is reaching out to the deeper, the farther places in Uganda, and different people. You're able to, once the bus is stationed in your district, in your city, in your village, dear taxpayer, you are able to walk to that bus and get a TIN number. Also, you can register your business with URSB. You can access any service. You can ask any questions to the officers that you will find on that bus. And apart from that, the CSR activities, URA has positioned itself to be the taxpayers. The last month, Linda, there were over 75 CSR activities all around the country. Yes, the different over 78 stations that URA has. The officers went into all these places, all these amazing places, to the orphanages, to hospitals, and they were just there giving back, serving the different communities, and this was just from their own pockets. The different officers were able to draw from what they have, from their hearts and their hands, to give back to the communities, which was such a wonderful gesture. And all this was done in a day around the country. So URA will be doing more of that. The officers will be doing more of that. Our dear taxpayers, many times officers, the URA officers have been seen as, there's a certain image that has been projected, mostly because of what the president could have termed as the Judases, and also the grasshoppers who are afraid to do the right thing. But there's been a cultural change in the organization. The taxpayers need to know there's been a cultural change in the organization, and most of the officers, all the officers, have signed a pledge of integrity, a pledge to serve professionally with integrity and patriotism. So no matter where you go to access a service, you can expect to get top-notch service from the different officers in those different places. And Edward, we have a call to action to our different taxpayers, large, small, or medium, all over the country. As URA plays its part, as the government, the bigger government does its part, what should our dear taxpayers be doing?
Thank you, Nouella. You have rightly said that there is a culture change within URA.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think this needs to also go out of URA to the taxpayer. We need to build a tax compliance culture, because we have quite so many of our people always looking for a place to dodge tax. That's why under declaration and things of that nature are really, not going down as fast as they should. So a few weeks ago, I was talking to my border guy who brings things at home, who I send to bring a few things at home. and he was complaining about how services are down, how everything is down. And then I asked him, how much tax do you pay? And he said, I don't pay any tax. Why should I pay?
Interesting.
You see, if we do not pay tax, then we should not really demand for any service, because the government will have no money at all to offer these services effectively and efficiently to us. So if we want to see our country moving forward, we must all be compliant to tax. We must pay our taxes duly as we ought to pay them. Therefore, any businessman out there who is doing business, in the dark alleys, in the shadows, it's important to register for TIN, to register for tax purposes. It's important to contribute something small to the development of your country, so that together, if everybody is paying something little, we all pay something and contribute to the growth and development of our country. Right now, it's only a very small percentage of people that are paying this tax. If you look at 1.8 million people contributing all this money that we are using for somewhere around 46 million people right now, and it is estimated that those who are mature enough to pay taxes are within somewhere in the area of about 17 million, and yet we have only about 1.8 million actually contributing to tax. So you see there is a huge gap. There are so many people who are not paying tax. So we need to come together, all of us, narrow this gap, pay something little, all of us, something little, so that we contribute to building our country. We should not send this old man, Honorable Kasaija, to go out there and get embarrassed all the time. On our behalf. Even if it was a younger person, it's not a good thing to be embarrassed, especially outside of your own comfort zones.
Yes.
It's not a good thing to be embarrassed all the time. But every time the minister is embarrassed on behalf of the country, the entire country is embarrassed.
That's true. That's true.
So we should fight for our own dignity, fight for our own sovereignty. It is possible. If we have even half of the numbers that we are talking about, paying tax, we can change the entire story of this country. But then I also think, away from the taxpayer, I also think that government should also do two things. The first one, if the government can hasten this oil thing, because there's a lot of money sleeping idle. This oil business has been around for a long time.
That's
so
true.
if it can be hastened and concluded, and we see this oil starting to flow, it will help so many taxpayers out there to even pay more.
That's true.
To even pay more. And as taxpayers pay more, leave alone the corporation taxes and all that government will be getting. I'm talking about the taxes from the service providers, someone who will be providing food to people who are working on the project, garments and stuff like that. Their income will increase, and that means they will be paying more. So if government can help the taxpayer in that area, that is something that is really, really, really quite important. And I think these are about the things that we need to do, both in the immediate and medium to long term, in order to improve our financial situation as a country.
Thank you so much, Edward. And we want to thank our taxpayers who have responded positively to the initiatives. Linda, over the last quarter, the tax register increased by 65,666 new taxpayers who got TIN numbers and registered their businesses, which is a plus. The taxpayers have also responded to the alternative dispute resolution call from URA. URA is saying, let's get out of the courts, let's get out of the squabbling, let us sit down on a table, let us discuss our tax matters, and let us put the facts out there and draw a conclusion and have a win-win situation. Over the last financial year, at least 56 taxpayers embraced alternative dispute resolution and were able to resolve their cases. There is a particular taxpayer that had filed their case over 7 years ago. Imagine 7 years and you're in court. The amount of money that is spent, on witnesses, during the whole trial, it's a lot.
And about 25 cases and 21 more.
Oh yes, 21 over this last quarter, Linda. 21 tax
Out of
cases,
27.
yes, were
Which is
sorted using the same. And so the public ought to see URA as a business enabler, no longer as, you know, an adversary, an enemy. There is a stakeholder collaboration that we can have, because tax is as definite as death is. Taxes must be paid. But URA's role is to make sure that the payment of these taxes is made easy. And so as URA ensures that the processes are top-notch, that there is a deepened taxpayer education, that there is a contact center which the taxpayers can access anytime during the day and even the night. The taxpayers, as Edward has said, ought to continue responding very fast. And we want to thank all those who have come on board and who are responding. And lastly, the taxpayers appreciation season is here. The taxpayers appreciation season is here, and it is running right from when it was launched last week on Thursday till December. And in this time, URA is appreciating all her taxpayers, large, small, medium, amazing. Last week on Thursday, Linda, when we launched, right there at the service center, there were taxpayers who didn't see something coming. Yeah. There were gift hampers that were organized, and they just came in to do their clearance, and then there was a surprise, and they were amazed when they received this. And one of the taxpayers, he commented and said, "Wow, I just came in here to do clearance, and then URA gives me this bucket, this gift load," and he was excited, and he said to me, "You know what? I feel like even paying more than I should." I said, "Oh, do your patriotic duty. Please do. Please do." So it's amazing. For this whole season, please watch out. Follow us on our social media platforms. Follow us right here on URA TV. URA will be rewarding. There will be a grand finale at the end of the season where URA will reward the top taxpayers in the country. And we will also recognize those who have been paying taxes for over 30 years. Many of you may not know them, but on that day, you'll be able to know them. And as a business enabler, the eBomba Your Business Summit is already ongoing. We've already had 2 Fridays. URA has already had 2 Fridays. And for the next 2 Fridays, the eBomba Summit, for the next 3 Fridays, the eBomba Your Summit will host such a variety of top-notch business people in the country that are ready to just give all this information freely that you would have paid so much for. But it's coming to you live on your screen, and it's just here to mitigate the effects of COVID on your business. So as you follow, you'll be able to learn so much, from how to do real estate, how to, there's just a lot, So we encourage you to tune in and follow. And that's it for us from the Revenue Pulse. Thank you so much, Edward. Any parting shots to our dear taxpayers?
Wow. Well, the one thing that I will say is what I've said before. It's important if all of us pay our little taxes, so that together we can eliminate that embarrassing kind of trend that we are into right now. And maybe also to thank you for choosing to host me today. It's a very nice gesture, and I appreciate it. Thank you very much. But maybe also to say that when Commissioner General John Rujokim Singozi, when he had just come, I remember in his first press brief, he said that one of the things that he will be sure to do is to drive tax to GDP ratio to about 18. I am anxiously waiting to see.
Watch the space.
Watch the space. Thank you so much, Edward. Any parting shots, Linda?
Thank you so much, our dear viewers, for joining us today. All I would like to say is, let's love our country, because together we can. Little by little, we shall get there. God bless you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Linda. And from us to you, have a good day.
Wow.
Taxi,
The Taxpayers Appreciation Season is here. We recognize, celebrate, and award Uganda's top taxpayers. Be part of the online Bombaya Business Summits and stand a chance to win smartphones, gift sets, hampers, and loads more. Visit our social media pages to find out more.
We appreciate you for paying your taxes. We're proud to be Ugandan. We celebrate you. Oh, we celebrate you. Taxpayers of Uganda. We appreciate you. We appreciate you. Uganda together.
Uganda Revenue Authority. Developing Uganda together.
The third edition of the Bombay Business Summit is here, starting at 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. every Friday from the 15th of October to the 12th of November. Join us via Zoom, Facebook, and YouTube as we discuss topics like surviving and thriving through the pandemic, investing in real estate, trade and investment opportunities in Uganda, alternative dispute resolution, business formalization, and inclusive resource mobilization for Uganda's economic independence. Don't miss out.
Uganda Revenue Authority. Developing Uganda together.